It's been about 24 hours since I found out that one of my childhood friends passed away. His name, he started going by the name Jacob. I don't know why. Not really sure why. Very puzzled by that. Me, my family, Jacob's family. Call him Jacob because that's what he wanted to be called. I've kind of lost touch with him, but I'd known him since he was in 6th grade. And I found out yesterday that he overdosed in a hotel room. Usually that means, you go to a hotel to, not to check in, but to check out. And I believe that's what he did. Said that he overdosed on pills. I don't have the specifics or the details, which is another thing that's kind of bothersome to me. And I've dealt with death before. Family members, my in-laws. Death is a part of life. Everybody's going to have to deal with it at some point in time, right? I've never had a friend die. Somebody I was very close with. He was my best friend in 6th grade. My very first best friend I met in kindergarten. And he moved away when we were in 1st grade. And then he came back to our lovely Colorado town, to my same school, when I was in 9th grade, which at the time was considered junior high or middle school. It wasn't quite high school yet. High school was grades 10, 11, 12. So he came back and made friends with Jacob. And Jacob, during lunch, came and, hey, you got to meet this new guy I just met. He's just new to our school. And his name's Randall. And I was like, oh, Randall. I had a friend named Randall. What's his last name? Turned out to be the same Randall. Pretty wild, right? Anyway, we were the 3 amigos. Super close. Did everything together. Everything. Did our freshman year, or first year in high school was considered sophomore year, 10th grade. We just were always together. And it was great. And Randall was the one that informed me yesterday that Jacob had passed away. And waiting to hear some more details about it, but it hits hard. And it brings up some guilt feelings for not having been there for Jacob, probably when he needed a friend the most. Jacob had burned a lot of bridges with his family he was estranged from, his sisters, his parents. He has a huge, huge family. Lots of cousins, uncles, aunts. And they had all written him off as well. He got involved in drugs. He went down a bad pathway. Bad path in life. And I had stuck strong with him until recently. And I was kind of tired of being used by him. He'd come in and out of my life, always asking for something, usually an emotional handout. But he never did anything horrible to me. He never did anything egregious and awful. It was just kind of like I reached that point where I had to set a boundary. And like, I don't want you to hurt me anymore. I don't want you to take advantage of me. I don't want you to be in my life and then you disappear for months, sometimes years. And come to find out, him and Randall hadn't spoken in 4 or 5 years. Jacob, one of his closest cousins, they hadn't had a conversation in 5 years. like I said, a lot of people had written him off. He burned a lot of bridges, made a lot of mistakes. But he reached out to the three of us, his cousin, Randall, myself, within days of each other. I don't know if he was tidying up loose ends because he knew he was going to plan his exit, or if he was reaching out for help. But I responded to him 3 days later. Come to find out, is the night that he passed away. I texted him back, but I was kind of torqued, and I had sat on that text for 3 days, and then I sat down. I was like, okay, I gotta respond to this guy. It's rude. My text was, I just said, damn Broncos. I love them, but I hate them. Period. Send. We're talking about the Denver Broncos, our favorite team. Lifelong Bronco fans since we were kids, little kids. And he had texted me about the Broncos and recent loss, and I always talk to him about loyalty to friends, loyalty to family, loyalty to your favorite sports teams. Even if they lose, they're still your team. Just because they lose doesn't mean you shouldn't rock their gear. Whoops. And so I got my Broncos gear on today. Just because your team loses doesn't mean you're not a fan. Just because your friends are losing doesn't mean you shouldn't be loyal to them. And he spoke about that in his text, and I was like, I don't feel like getting into a deep thing. I just texted that back to him. And those are my last words to him. That's what I said to him. Again, nothing using the word egregious or mean, but I just didn't want to deal with him. And come to find out, I probably should have. The 5 stages of grief, you bounce back and forth between them. Definitely grieving. I think the message in this video is feels good for me to get some feelings out, but you do have to ask yourself, when do you write somebody off? When do you say enough is enough? And you do. You have to set boundaries in your life. You can't be abused. You can't be part of toxic relationships. We use that word so much, so overly used, toxic, but sometimes friendships and relationships and even family, it can become toxic and not good. And we have to put boundaries. We have to set boundaries. And guilt comes into play when somebody passes away, and you'd put a boundary on them, or between you and them. He really was trying to apologize, trying to get back in the good graces of things, but he had done that so many times before that I was just like, oh, here we go again. So, again, the moral of this is you have to gauge that for yourself. Everybody has to gauge, when do I cut somebody off? Yeah. And I suppose the biggest lesson learned here is that life is short. Nothing is guaranteed. And we need to enjoy what we have and who we have in our lives, unless it is toxic. And then we do have to put boundaries in place. So today I'm treating myself to a hike. I'm not going to work. I'm going to go see something beautiful, experience something beautiful, and I'm going to do that in his honor, and because it's my coping mechanism. And yeah. Thanks for listening. I have a lot of memories of Jacob. One of my favorites, it was the end of our sophomore year of high school, 10th grade, and we lived in Colorado. My mom and I had plans to move to Michigan once school ended, the beginning of June, and went over to Jacob's house, hung out with his family, and we were down in his basement, and my mom wanted to take pictures of us, two best buddies together. We both had on University of Michigan hats, and I always wore something that said Michigan on it all the time, being a big Wolverine fan. And Jacob also had a Michigan t-shirt on, and we supported the team, talked about loyalty. Earlier that month, Michigan had lost in the national championship game to North Carolina on a Chris Webber timeout. And the next day, I wore Michigan gear to school. And everybody was like, they lost, they suck, they lost. Still my favorite team. And I remember Jacob saying that was one of his memories he has of me. One of the things he admired me for. And as I look at that as a 47-year-old man, that was 15 years old then, I feel bad that I've written him off. Supposed to be loyal to the end, right? Supposed to be loyal to your friends and family, even when they're losing. But there's a fine line. You can't stay in something toxic. Just like, I talk to kids all the time, counsel them on, relationships that, if you're in a toxic relationship, you can't stay in it. Even though you're supposed to be loyal to your spouse or your partner, boyfriend, girlfriend, significant other. If it's toxic and bad for you, you can't remain in there. And Jacob had crossed that toxic line a time or two. So I'm gonna miss him. Wish I could have stopped him from killing himself. If not for him, for his two young boys. Because they're gonna carry that around the rest of their lives. And it's hard for kids to I think his kids are maybe 12 and 14 or 11 and 13. I mean, it's going to be hard for them to not think that they didn't have something to do with that, even though they absolutely did not. They absolutely didn't. I know that he loved his boys, fiercely so. It's a shame, though. It's a shame, man. I just... feel bad for those kids. It's gonna be hard for them to get past that. See these ripples in the water as the wind is blowing the water northwest. And these ripples pass right by that rock, or around it at least. It's kind of like life, a little microcosm, right? Those ripples are thoughts, feelings. They come and they go. You can't invest too much in any one of them. What you feel today, you might not feel tomorrow. The thought that you have right now that seems important and urgent probably isn't. And those thoughts go right around you, right through you. And then they're gone. And there's so much more ahead, so many more thoughts, so many more feelings. Just gotta enjoy the good ones, let go of the bad ones. Good or bad, label it however you will. Nothing lasts forever. As I'm sitting out here by this beautiful reservoir, I keep thinking about Jacob and, you know, 5 different stages of grief. There's anger and there's guilt that I'm feeling, you know, missing him, missing the old times, the good times. There's that guilt, and there's the, what's worse is the anger. Like, you killed yourself during Christmas time, man. 4 days before Christmas. You know, your boys, your family is always going to remember that. There's a stigma attached to that, attached to suicide, especially with having little kids. Just angry that he would do that. Not so much angry for myself, you know, but I mean, his sons are gonna, the week before Christmas, you know, they're gonna be thinking about that every year of their life, that my dad died before Christmas time, and that he killed himself. It's hard to get past that. Pisses me off. Hear that? Big rush of water. So we're coming up on it. What a rush. Odd thing about grief, it comes in waves, kind of like this water. It comes, sometimes it bubbles up a certain area, then it flows away, only to bubble up later, flows away, bubbles up again, flows away. contemplating about how Jacob had reached out to me on a Sunday afternoon. It's around 3:30. Talked about the Broncos loss, how the teams that were ahead of them in the playoff race were winning. Things didn't look good for getting into the playoffs. And what's your opinion? What are you thinking about? How's your family? How are things going? Hope you're doing well. And I sat on that for 3 full days. It's because I was like, I don't want to deal with this guy right now. And it was like a project to have to text with him. Last time I had texted him before that had been 6 weeks, 8 weeks, something like that, a while. And he obviously texted me drunk. His texts were slurred. Words are out of order. He's either drunk or high. He just called me effing a-hole for not hanging out with him over the summer. I never made any promises that I would hang out with him, but I was kind of like, yeah, maybe we could meet somewhere. I didn't want him over at my house. But he sent that to me, and then I sent him an email, not an email, but a text back, as if I was emailing an angry parent at the school I work at. Parents get angry, customers get angry, and you have to send a nice reply back explaining why something happened the way that it did, and you have to be professional and courteous. And so that's what I did. I used that experience to write him a text back and basically said, like, you and I aren't going to be hanging out. We're not going to be out there singing Kumbaya together. You burned your bridges one too many times with me, and I think we're done. Maybe down the road, we'll see. Maybe we could hang out. But, I wish you nothing but good, nothing but positive things for you and your family, and I wish you well. I hope you get better. Hope you get sober. But I don't think you and I can hang out anymore, was the gist of the text. And then when he texted me back, weeks later, he was calling out for help. And the day I texted him back is the day he took his life. I don't even know if he read my text. I don't even know if he got it or not.